In yesterday's game against the New York Knicks, we had this absolute viral moment that happened in which LeBron James, at the end of the third quarter, went up to Stephen A. Smith, and he told Stephen A. Smith, keep my son's name out of your mouth. And we know this because Stephen A. Smith responded earlier today on First Take, and we're going to talk about this entire situation because there's some interesting details that I think some people don't know. I'm excited to get into this one. We'll also talk a little bit about that Knicks versus Lakers game. Let's get right into this. So yesterday, if you guys don't know, everybody knows. But if you don't know, right? In yesterday's game, LeBron James went up to Stephen A. Smith. This was at the end of the third quarter. And according to the lip readers, he said, I don't care, bro. Keep my son out of this shit, bro. That's exactly what that's exactly what we saw, right? Now, keep in mind, we don't know what LeBron James said prior to the videos actually being recorded. We don't know if LeBron James said something else to Stephen A. Smith. We don't know how long they were talking to one another, right? The video from the time we see it only showed LeBron James saying, keep my son's name out of your mouth. Now, if you guys don't know exactly the situation of what happened and why LeBron James went up to Stephen A. Smith, apparently Stephen A. Smith had some take on ESPN about a month and a half back. And when that take happened on ESPN, keep in mind, he was very critical of Bronny James, talking about how Bronny James is not NBA ready and how, the Lakers are apparently forcing him down our throats, basically to keep LeBron James happy, right? That's kind of what he said on ESPN. And as he made that statement on ESPN, he got a text message from who we think is Rich Paul. Now, it's not confirmed if that's who it was, but he apparently got a text, and he did not take kindly to that text, right? Or at least Stephen A. Smith did not. And then Stephen A. Smith said, I'm going to go on my YouTube channel and post this video talking about Bronny James. It's a over 12-minute video. I'll link it down in the comments below if you guys want to check it out. Basically, Stephen A. Smith titled it, Bronny James is not ready. Stop forcing it, LeBron. So Stephen A. Smith had to go out there and basically tell us that Bronny James is not ready in multiple different ways. And he even took shots at LeBron a little bit within this. He said something to the tune about Bronny, that the guy's played in 13 games and he's averaging 0.3 points per game. The guy's not good, right, is what Stephen A. Smith was basically saying, utilizing the stats and those type of things. And within all of that, Stephen A. Smith thought that the next time he sees LeBron James, that LeBron James was not going to say anything, right? Because you got to keep in mind, right? Stephen A. Smith had a take on ESPN. LeBron James had his agent reach out to Stephen A. Smith. At least that's who we think reached out. And then Stephen A. Smith doubled down. So to me, the fact that LeBron James said something to Stephen A. Smith and then he doubled down, it only makes sense that Stephen A. Smith, the next time he saw LeBron was going to say something to him. And of course, LeBron James did say that, which led us into yesterday's viral video. Right, LeBron James went up to Stephen A. Smith and said whatever it was that he said. Again, we don't know the entire context, but we do understand that it has something to do with keeping my son's name out of your mouth. Of course, Stephen A. Smith earlier today also responded to the entire situation. I'm going to let you guys listen to this, the 5-minute video, but check this out and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
That was LeBron James coming up to me, unexpectedly, I might add, to confront me about making sure that I mind what I say about his son. Can't repeat the words because they ain't suited for FCC airwaves. That's what he was doing. I thought long and hard about this over the last few hours because I had no intentions, Molly, of talking about this at all.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it was a one-on-one, I wouldn't say a conversation, but it was a one-on-one confrontation. But then I wake up and everybody from ESPN and my agent and everybody else were sending me that this thing had gone viral. And so ultimately it was unavoidable, and that is why I have to discuss it now. That wasn't a basketball player confronting me. That was a parent. That was a father. And I can't sit here and be angry or feel slighted by LeBron James in any way in that regard. By all accounts, he's obviously a wonderful family man and a wonderful father who cares very, very deeply about his son. And based on some of the comments that he had heard, or shall I say, I think he thought he heard, he clearly took exception to some of the things that he heard me say, and he confronted me about it. For the record, his agent and friend, Rich Paul, has my number. Maverick Carter, who works under him, has my number. LeBron James knows how to get in contact with me if he wanted to. He never called, because had he called and wanted to talk to me, I would have accepted that call. Had he wanted to see me, I would have flown out and I would have seen him and I would have had a conversation man to man. But that is not what he elected to do. Instead, he elected to confront me while I was sitting courtside. Ari Emanuel, the head of William Morris Endeavor, one of the agencies that represents me, along with Larry David, was sitting courtside. I was with them for the game. And he walked right up to me and he said what he had to say. And apparently he feels like I was slighting his son. Now let me tell you what I feel. What I would have said if we were in a different environment, because I was not going to engage in a confrontation at that particular moment in that setting. But if we had had that conversation, I would have said to LeBron James, I never would speak negatively about your son. I was talking about you, meaning you, LeBron James. I have nothing but the best wishes for Bronny James. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope that he flourishes into an NBA star. Usually in other sports, we see all-stars, and on occasion, we'll see their children become stars as well. That doesn't really happen with the NBA. I sincerely hope he's the exception. By all accounts, he's a wonderful kid. And I don't know anybody who roots against him, and it certainly isn't me. But in the same breath, at the time that we were talking about him, he was percolating to such a degree that the Bronny James stories had gone viral. And so we had to talk about it. And when I said the things that I said, I wasn't talking about Bronny James because my attitude is he's a rookie. It's going to take some time for him to get himself together. He'll be just fine, especially with J.J. Redick and the staff coaching him. I was talking about the position that he was put in by his dad, because LeBron James has been on the record, and he has said, and I'll read the quote here. There was a quote that he gave in February of 2024. The work and results will ultimately do talking, no matter what the size. If y'all don't know, he doesn't care what mock drafts say. He just works, earned, not given, et cetera, et cetera. But he also had said that his son could play on the Lakers right now, and he was better than half the dudes in the NBA. In the aftermath of all of that, he instructed everybody before the draft that y'all want me, draft Bronny. Wherever Bronny is at, that's where I'll be. I'll do whatever it takes to play with my son for a year. It's not about the money at that point. My point months ago was that because of who you are, one of the top 2 players in the history of basketball, in my estimation, there's an immense amount of pressure that comes with that for his son. And when he talked like that, and what have you, anything that goes awry as it pertains to his son, there's going to be a microscopic eye, even more intensified, on Bronny James because of his dad and what his dad had said. And that's when I was talking about, come on, man, this is the situation that you're putting him in. That's where I was coming from. I could be a bit more outspoken about it, but to be quite honest with you, to be in that moment, to have LeBron look at me the way that he did, for me to be a father of 2 daughters, for me to know what fathers, how much love fathers have for their children, and to hear what he had to say, it was all about his son.
So there you guys have it, right? There's a lot of moments within that where Stephen A. Smith, kind of relaxed his tune a little bit. He said that I think Bronny James will be perfectly fine, especially with J.J. Redick kind of coaching him and developing him. So I don't know if LeBron James, confronting Stephen A. Smith has actually changed his mind, or if we're going to get another video in a couple of hours on the YouTube channel saying something completely different. We'll find out, right? But Stephen A. Smith does make it known that this entire situation had to do with comments that he made about LeBron James' son. And I do find it interesting that Stephen A. Smith, the entire thing went kind of viral. And I do find it interesting that Stephen A. Smith that said that I had no intention of talking about this at all. Because Stephen A. Smith gets paid to talk and give opinions and give thoughts. So it's kind of interesting that he said that I didn't really have any intentions to talk about this, right? Because that's kind of where he makes money. Another thing I noticed within this is Stephen A. Smith is almost playing victim, right? He's saying that, if LeBron James had called me, I would have taken his call. If LeBron James told me, hey, come fly out and meet me face to face, man to man, I would have done that as well, right? But he chose not to, right? Almost throwing it into like, hey, LeBron's the one that's kind of wrong in this situation, right? I don't know. It's an interesting story, however you look at it. I'll give you guys my thoughts on this. And some people aren't going to agree with me, but, it's my thoughts, it's my opinions. To me, when I think about a guy like LeBron James, he's the face of the NBA. He's one of the greatest players we've ever seen. And then, of course, his son makes the NBA. His son gets drafted to the same team. To me, that's a story that we're probably never going to see that happen again. We're never going to get a guy that's that great, and then his son ends up on the same team 20 plus years later. We're never going to get that story again. And the fact that it's happened, it's a story that these guys are going to have to talk about, right? It's a story that Stephen A. Smith's going to talk about. And it's not just the story element of it, because that's over, right? Like, when Bronny James took those minutes in that first game, or when he came in and he played with LeBron James in that first game, that was a moment to talk about that aspect of it. But now we got to talk a little bit more about the actual basketball player, right? We got to talk a little bit more about Bronny James. As Stephen A. Smith says, he's played 13 minutes, and he averages 0.3 points per game. But we also do have to realize it's not a big deal, right? Second-round picks don't generally, it takes time for them to develop a little bit. It takes time for them to actually, get it together. We've seen some guys not really play a whole lot in their first year to develop into good role players in their second years, in their third years, in their fourth years, right? So to me, it's really not that big of a deal with the fact that the Lakers brought in Bronny James. And I know some people, even Lakers fans, disagree with that entire situation. But I think it's one of those things where it's really not a big deal. And I'll also state this, for Stephen A. Smith, for him to have his thoughts and opinions on Bronny, I'm okay with that. But I'm also okay with LeBron James and confronting him and telling him to stop talking about my son, stop talking shit about my son. I'm okay with that as well. I find nothing wrong with what LeBron ultimately, did and said to Stephen A. Smith. And he was also kind of interesting because the New York Knicks are a very, very solid team. And the fact that the Lakers, who are down by like 15 points at some point, they're down by 9 points going into the fourth quarter, came back, tied the game, went into overtime, and ultimately ended up beating the New York Knicks. The fact that the Lakers had a very impressive comeback victory against the Knicks is kind of overlooked, right? And I just want to talk a little bit about the game, just really quickly. Jackson Hayes, at the end of the game in the fourth quarter specifically, he had a key block. He had a key offensive rebound that led to a Gabe Vincent 3-point shot. Jackson Hayes has been really, really good. He even had a couple of clutch free throws. I believe it was in the fourth quarter, he hit both of them. Jackson Hayes has been really, really solid for the Lakers, and got to give him a lot of credit. The guy yesterday really showed up for the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Lakers have obviously been looking to really figure out who's going to play that center position. Alex Len hasn't really played for the Lakers at all. Trey Jemison has played a lot more for the Lakers as of late. Yesterday, Jemison really, really struggled. Right, I think he had like two or three turnovers. He did not look good yesterday. Right. But Jackson Hayes stepped the hell up, and Jackson Hayes has really, really developed. I think he was the 9th overall pick a couple years back. But it's kind of crazy because the development that this guy has taken, right? And JJ Redick deserves a lot of credit for that as well. But the development this guy has taken has been absolutely incredible, and he's been a key piece for the Lakers. And I think even as we kind of go forward, I think he'll continue to be that key piece. When you play teams like the Knicks, the Nuggets, Jackson Hayes is going to be, he's going to have to be that guy for the Lakers. Also, Luka Doncic, right? He's absolutely changed. He's changed everything. This Lakers team has been absolutely incredible, and Luka Doncic has been absolutely the difference maker for the Lakers. The guy hit the first 5 points in overtime yesterday. He had 4 steals yesterday for the Lakers as well. And generally speaking, the guy was just very, very solid all around. He's been averaging, he had 12 assists against the Knicks. He had 15 assists 2 days earlier. The guy has been crazy elite when it comes to passing, and he's been controlling the ball. It's allowed LeBron James to take less shots, and it's allowed LeBron to have to create less. And I think that's going to extend LeBron James' career a lot further, right? Most people thought this would be the final year LeBron James played. He's already confirmed he'll be back next year. I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron's playing at like 45 years old. I would not be surprised if he's playing at that position. Now, he won't be the same type of player that we saw, 10 years ago, where he's driving, and he's being aggressive and he's creating. He might not be that type of player, but if his role changes a little bit, which it can, with Luka Doncic obviously being like the main focal point of the offense, LeBron can play for a lot longer. So we'll see, but shout out to Luka for kind of flipping this team and really changing this team, right? The Lakers have a bright future. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.